You're listening to the Fierce Family Podcast, episode 182, dealing with fatphobic family during the holidays. I'm your host, Vinnie Wellesby. Let's do it!
Perfect.
Hello and welcome to this episode. So nice to see ya. How you doing? How's life? You good? I'm good. Good. My ring light is not working today because I have a multiple USB connector and that has broken as of yesterday. So I can't have my mic and ring light on at the same time. So if you watch on YouTube, you might be like, Vinny, why is the lighting so bad? It's because I have just a mechanics light on me. And the ring light, I don't know what the ring light does, but it's just, it seems like it's tiny light source, but it just packs a punch. So if you're in the video recording world, a ring light is better than a lamp or a normal light bulb. Insider information for you. Oh my goodness. Hey, have you noticed how the Fierce Family Podcast is becoming less frequent? And it's sometimes just one episode a month or twice a month. Well, the reason for that is because I am working to fund the podcast. So we have Ko-fi, K-O-F-I, which is kind of like Patreon, where you can donate to the podcast. And because I've been making the podcast for, I don't know, maybe 4 years now. We're at 182 episodes. And for that whole time, I've been paying to produce a podcast myself, which I worked out how much it was. I've paid to make the podcast, and I was like, oh God. Oh, no. It was a lot. I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot. Anyway, and so I've worked out kind of like bare minimum costs is to make 4 episodes of the podcast, $680 a month. So that's why, because our donations at Ko-fi is at just being able to fund 1 episode a month currently. So if you would like me to go back to doing 2, 3, even 4 episodes a month, and you enjoy the podcast and you've listened to more than a couple of episodes and you would like to fund fat content, then go to my Ko-fi. The link is in the show notes. We're currently at $290 and 39 subscribers to my Ko-fi a month. And so to get to 2 episodes a month is $340. So if we can get to $340, so that's only another $45. That's only another 9 people that do $5. Is that 9 people? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah. It's like, have I just screwed up that math? And someone's like, Vinny, it's 7. I wasn't like, anyway. Another 9 people to do $5 a month. Or you can do more, 10, 20, and you get perks for that. You get cool, good shit, good stuff for that. Can't be bothered to tell you what the perks are. Go to Ko-fi, and I would have told you on Ko-fi. You get a size diversity resource guide and other stuff. Anyway, so $340, and we can do 2 episodes a month. So we're close, and we got there like a month, and then it's a catch-22. The less episodes that I make, the less often you're going to hear the message to, hey, if you want to donate on Ko-fi, and therefore people donate less, and therefore I make less episodes. So it's a real catch-22. And for most of the podcast, I've been, funding it myself. And so it's, I don't know. Anyway, if you like this stuff, I'll stop talking because I feel like, I know, a bit awkward saying, give me money. Anyway, talking about fatphobic people during the holidays, maybe not just family, but anyone. You know what? I know in America, in the US, you have Thanksgiving like a month before. You just had it when I'm recording. You have it like a month before Christmas. But I, as a British person who lives in Canada we have Thanksgiving in October, I think, because I don't celebrate it. It's not part of my cultural background to be bothered about Thanksgiving, and anyway, I wouldn't because of colonialism. Anyway, long story short, what I'm trying to say is I really don't think about gatherings until like December time. And so I'm sorry for those of you who've already had gatherings, depending whatever your cultural background is. There's lots of gatherings and religious holidays and cultural holidays between November and January. So it's not just the North American Catholicism that's going on. There's also many other different holidays, for example, like Kwanzaa. Did you know Kwanzaa is a week-long celebration that goes from 26th of December to the 1st of January, so 1 week, culminating on the 6th day, which is the 31st of December, where they have a feast. And Kwanzaa was first created in 1966 by a activist who, I can't remember his name, Karenga? Oh, brain, thank you. Something Karenga, in response to the Watts riots. And the Watts riots were something, riots that happened near LA, where, as a response to police brutality. And so Karenga wanted to make a celebration where people who are Black, specifically African American, could celebrate their culture and traditions, and move away from what Karenga saw as the white holiday of Christmas. And you'll see Kwanzaa celebrated like different symbols. The main one that you might recognize is 7 candles together, 3 red, 3 green, and 1 black. And there's gift giving, and there's different celebrations every day. Anyway, I was just learning about Kwanzaa. Information download. Anyway, so if you're about to celebrate Kwanzaa and you've got some dickhead fatphobic family, because we know those fatphobes, they're everywhere, right? And you're like, oh my God, what can I do? Or any time of the year, actually, dealing with people who you might not see often, or you might have relationships where it's a little bit more difficult than your friends, or you know, your partner. You might be able to have more frank discussions with those. So I asked people on the Instagrams, tell me if you've got any questions, if you want to share any experiences. So I'm going to share those. I'm going to be talking about boundaries. I'm going to be talking about when people say that you're too sensitive and stop overreacting. All I said was that you were disgusting. Why are you offended by it? You're so sensitive. And ideas for word tracks, what you can say, different levels of word tracks in regards to how you might escalate it, how you might act on a boundary, hard and soft boundaries, signs someone doesn't respect your boundaries. Oh, so we got stuff today. We have stuff. And boundaries feel really close to my heart, because I don't know about you, but for most of my life, I've been a timid people pleaser. And there's no way in the world I would be saying, oh, excuse me, can you stop saying that to a family member, especially like, you know, when an aunt or uncle, or, you know, my dad or something. No, I would just leave and then slag them off behind the back, you know, like a normal person. But annoyingly, because I've been in therapy for so many years, I've tried to be a better person. Boring. And trying to be better with my communication and have better relationships. So I nerd out on boundaries. And because, unfortunately, if you have marginalized identities, you will have to probably do this work, which is not fair, you know? That you're the one who has to do a lot of the work. I was talking with one of my friends the other day, Madison, and, you know, talking about how we feel like the black sheep sometimes in relationship dynamics, as in like, the one doing the work, and sometimes other people are not doing the work, and it can feel really isolating and make you feel like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I overreacting? Am I too much? Am I too demanding or whatever? Anyway, so we'll talk about that today. Okay, so your experiences. Got a couple of quick comments. Parents commenting to me, you're going to eat all that? Any changes to my body appearance? They comment on. Patty says, no one says anything to me, but they do to my son. It pisses me off, and he's a grown man. And I said to Patty, oh my goodness, that's awful. What types of things would they say? And they say to Patty's son, boy, you're getting big, asking if he's still exercising. He was a high school athlete. You know, we just want you to be healthy. Bullcrap, essentially. I'm learning to love my size, but I'm not sure he's in that headspace. People can be awful, especially family. Yeah. Yes. Why is it family? Why is it family? I find that strange. I feel like maybe they feel like they have the right to do it. And you know, if you've had that dynamic younger with your, you know, a sibling, and they're like, oh, you're fat or whatever, then they probably feel like it's okay as an adult to maybe what they view as tease you, like an in-joke or something, or that they have the right because they're family and they're just, quote, worried about you. I don't know. But yeah, family do seem to be the most... When I talk to people, when I talk to my clients, when I do one-on-one coaching, it almost is the family that's the biggest problem. There's a Reddit thread here, which is Reddit plus size. Careful on Reddit, because the Reddit fatphobic community is alive and cooking, but there are some fat positive communities on Reddit. Anyway, this person made a post, kind of just maybe a little bit more of a fatphobic family and the holidays. I have been wanting to post this for a while. I have been in a larger body all my life and have realized in the last year just how fatphobic my aunts are. The real gag is they are and have always been larger than I am. I am sort of a black sheep because I'm the only one of the cousins, as my cousins and I call us, who doesn't follow the status quo and abide by what they think I should do with my life. Yeah, black sheep thing again. But in the last year, the underhanded comments have intensified with my sister's weight loss. If I wear something, quote, scandalous, one of my aunt's words, or where I'm wearing when revealing clothing, I'm asked if I would feel more comfortable wearing leggings under a dress or a tank top to cover my chest. When my sister does it, it's all of the praise in the world. To be clear, I look good as fuck in everything I put on, baby, in capital letters. Yes, my dad says that they are jelly of my self-confidence. Oh, thanks, Dad. One of my cousins notices it too. His husband lost 40 pounds, and you'd think this man was a god by the way they treat him now. My sister sees it too now. We, cousins, have noticed a lot of their bullshit and stay away from them a lot. I'm really debating on if I want to go to Thanksgiving dinner to see the rest of my family, who doesn't treat me that way, and put up with my aunts. I have several, and they're bullshit. I've warned my mum the next one who tries me, I will not hold back, and that I have only kept my true feelings to myself out of respect for her and love I have for my cousins. She told me to speak my piece. I hope I don't have to, because they cannot handle what they dish out. So this is posted 9 days ago, just before this Thanksgiving. And people are saying, oh, I'm sorry, and, you know, perhaps you can say this. And the poster said, oh, I've kept my mouth shut for long enough. I'm not in short supply of responses. I just have to try and tone it down. So it sounds like this person's like up to their limits and just being like, is going to be like, fuck, yeah. One person says, don't go. Oh, no, one person says, go, don't give up on the rest of your family because of a couple of assholes who can't keep their mouths shut. My only suggestion would be, at the first comment, give them one warning to knock it off with the remarks. Then if they continue, and they will, let them have it. You don't have to do this, of course, but at least they can't whine when no one said it wasn't appropriate. Please come back on the inevitable tongue lashing that you give them. And this, the OP said, LMAO, it's been brewing for 30 something years. Yes. Someone else commented, if you want to save energy, just say wow in response to their comments. Increase the volume of the wow as needed. That makes me think of, who is that one, that actor guy? And he says, wow. I need to Google it now.
Oh, wow. That's what you try.
Oh, it's Owen Wilson. Wow. Yeah, that's a technique. That is a technique. Okay, so we got some questions. How do I handle multiple people calling me dramatic, ganging up on me when I set boundaries? So this person, I was like, oh, give me more. Tell me more. What do they say exactly? So this person said, usually I get passive aggressive comments on my body, such as, when was the last time you worked out? There's nothing passive about that. That's aggressive. When's the last time you worked out? Or because I'm getting married soon, I've had comments like, oh, you better watch out so you can still fit in your wedding dress. If my eyes could roll back in my head any further, that'd be like slot machine when you win the jackpot. Recently, my boundaries have been very direct, like, please don't talk about my body. Or, I'll appreciate it if you didn't ask me those questions. The responses I usually get are about how dramatic I am. For context, I am the only person in my family who sets boundaries and calls out anything problematic. So they're usually lumping those comments about boundaries in with others I've set non-related to fat phobia as well. Black sheep thing. I will usually get a couple of family members all talking directly to me, defending their comments on my body and telling me that I am, quote, taking them the wrong way, or, quote, mean no harm. They mean no harm. And then if I don't back down on my boundary, they will become angry as if I'm calling them a bad person. Oh, wow. This is so difficult, right? And the thing is, okay, so boundaries aren't about controlling how other people behave. It's a guideline to help you understand how you should behave to feel good, right? You make a request. These people have clearly, not only have they denied your request, but they are attacking you for having a very simple request. Don't talk about my body. What is it you're saying? Please don't talk about my body. I mean, shit, it's not you're saying, hey, please, can you just stop breathing? You know? It's a very reasonable request. And even the most people who don't get, body liberation would be like, yeah, we should probably stop talking about bodies. Like, it's not far left field, or right field, or whatever the saying is. So being too sensitive to boundaries, I like a good analogy. So I've come up with an analogy of what I think that this is kind of like. So let's imagine that you have a bunch of donkeys, Christmas donkeys, like Dominic the donkey. You know that song? Chingity ching, hee-haw, it's Dominic the donkey. A chingity ching, hee-haw, the Italian Christmas donkey. La la la, 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 dick-doom, dick-doom, dick-da-da-dum-dum. That's a real good, that is a banger. That is a Christmas banger. Anyway, so you've got Dominic, the donkey, the Christmas donkey in your field, and some of Dominic's pals, all right? So you have a field, it's an open field, Dominic and his pals, the donkeys, hanging out there, just having a good donkey life, right? People in the area come into the field, uninvited, and start riding Dominic, stealing Dominic's friends, pestering them. When they yawn, they stick their fingers in their mouth and they put grass up their nose, just annoying them. So one day you put up an electric fence because you're like, Dominic deserves to live in peace. All right. People come to the field, don't notice the electric fence. They get zapped and they are like, wow. Like, what's his face? Owen Wilson. Wow. So Owen Wilson comes to the field and says, wow. That's an overreaction. All I'm doing is coming and giving Dominic some kisses and you've put an electric fence and I just got zapped by it. So what they didn't see is the multiple times that you came to them and said, hey, you know what? Dominic doesn't like it when you pull his ears and jump on his back, and his friends don't like it either. And, you know, also people are taking his friends back to the house, and, you know, and they're like, whatever. We're going to do what we want. And then you put up signs. You're saying, hey, don't pull Dominic's ears. Leave them alone. And they ignored the signs. And only the first time that they really heard you was when you put that electric fence. Because the other times, they just didn't think that you were serious. And so their interaction with that electric fence to them seems shocking. Because it is. It shocked them, literally. And it seems like, what the hell? I'm just here being nice to the donkeys. All of a sudden, they've said, you can't touch the donkeys. And I'm just like, what? But that's not your experience or Dominic's experience, right? And so it is to be expected that they are going to have oh my God, you're so sensitive, because there's been a breakdown in communication of understanding each other. Eventually, you know, the people will come to the field. They'll stay behind the fence because it's electrified. The donkeys will be happy. And then you'll probably, you know, they'll learn that they can't go into the field. That's just not, you know, they're going to get electrocuted. Eventually, one day you might decide to put up a wooden fence. And because people have learned that that is the boundary to the field, you don't need that electric fence anymore. There's a wooden fence and they just respect it. They understand what it represents. So initially, the boundary will feel shocking, and that's to be expected. But then people will learn the rules of engaging with Dominic and his pals. Eventually, maybe one day you might decide, I'm going to open up donkey tours so that people can come and give Dominic a little pat and stroke his hair and braid his hair or whatever. And then you are overseeing the situation and make sure they're not, you know, yanking on his tail or whatever, right? You might decide to do that or not. Or another scenario is that you put up the electric fence, they get zapped, and they're like, oh my God, you're so unreasonable. And they come the next day with wire cutters and cut down that electric fence and just go into the field anyway and do what they want. That's the scenario that happens most of the time, is that when people state a boundary, people are like, oh my God, you're overreacting. And they just overstep the boundary anyway. Or we feel guilty and we say, I made a mistake, and you take down the electric fence. I'm being too sensitive. Because the people outside have convinced you, is it so bad that I put my finger up Dominic's bum? He doesn't mind it. It's just a finger, you know? And then you're like, I don't know. And when it's not about Dominic and it's actually about us, it makes it even harder. Being like, well, I should probably just accept that finger up the bum. Or have my ears pulled, you know? And obviously these are analogies for words. The other side of this as well is that learning about overstating harm. So let's imagine, you know, you put the electric fence up, people, you know, break in anyway, and you're like, fuck this. And so you move. You move your farm and Dominic and his friends to somewhere else, completely different. You see someone in your new field and they're walking up to Dominic. Your reaction might be, get the fuck out of the field, leave Dominic alone. I can't believe you did that. You were terrorizing me by being in this field. You're breaking the law. I'm going to call the police. That might be your reaction because of the terrible experiences that you have previously experienced, right? You might immediately put up a fence. And so immediately, you know, saying, oh, that person that has come into the field, or say if you immediately put up a fence, even though no one's doing anything to Dominic, that could be like overstating harm. And this could be a trauma response. Or it could be because previously you've not been heard, and so you've had to shout now. So it's kind of like, say if you cut your arm, you've got a really sore, sensitive arm, and someone brushes by you, and it really stings. And you snap and you're like, how dare you? You've really hurt me. And they have really hurt you. but it wasn't necessarily them that caused the initial harm, even though that they have also contributed to the harm that you're feeling right now. So the statement of harm might not be in line with the actions of the person, but is a result of your past trauma. So, to be an effective communicator, we want to try and not overstate harm or ascribe the full power of the harm that has happened just then to that one person when there's a background of harm. So here's an example, like real life example. I used to work at this company. I used to have a job. And there was this one guy who, we worked in a kind of like an open office. And there was this one guy who was just a fucking knob. He was a bellend. He was really mean, and he would say cruel things to people all the time and make fun of them and just be really dominant around the office and just belittle people. Anyway, so he was doing this stuff to me. I was new, and I was at my therapist. Like, what should I do? At my therapist, what shall I do about this guy? You know, and why is it so triggering for me? Well, it's so triggering for me because I've had past experiences with an abusive relationship. My dad was a very domineering, bully type person. And so after talking with my therapist, I decided that I would take this guy aside. And I said to him, hey, can we just talk privately? When I said that, he was like, ooh, Vinny wants to talk to me in private. Maybe they want to get with me or something like that. I can't remember what he said, but I was just like, in my brain, you're such a fucking dickhead. Anyway, so when I went out the back, I said, hey, listen, I just wanted to, is it okay if I share a little bit about my history with you? And he says, yeah, sure. And I said, hey, I used to be in an abusive relationship. My dad was very domineering. And so sometimes when you say these things, because of my past history, it can be a little bit more triggering for me than it might be for other people. So I'm wondering if you could avoid saying those types of things to me. And he was like, oh my goodness, yeah, I'm so sorry. He gave me a hug. And then, then he never said anything like that to me ever again. He did to other people though. He continued with other people. So saying it me taking that approach after lots of guidance from my therapist might have been more effective than, say, one day me saying, Jordan, well, that's his name, if you know what company I used to work at. Yeah, don't tell him. Hey, you're the worst person that's ever lived. You're a piece of shit. I hate you. What you're saying is the worst thing that's ever been said. It might not have been aligned with him saying, oh, you're bad at your job, but also recognizing sometimes that's just that's our reaction, right? I do it all the time, saying overstate and harm, like me being like, oh, he's such a dickhead. Is he really? Like, or is he like also a hurt person who's behaving this way? La 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 la, So, and because I have spent a lot of my life traumatized, living with PTSD, I have been triggered by a lot of things. That's just normal, right? And so if you do happen to react with the, really big reaction, that's just a normal, totally normal way to react, right? So don't beat yourself up about it. But I'm not saying that this person is overstating harm. I really don't think that they are at all, right? Because if someone said to me, oh, you better watch out so you can still fit in your wedding dress, and then I said, can you please not talk? I'd appreciate if you didn't talk about my body. That sounds absolutely reasonable, right? Maybe overstating harm might be like if they said, watch out so you can still fit in your wedding dress. You might say, an overstating harm is, you've just ruined my wedding, Maybe they have, maybe they've done other stuff. Anyway, so if you feel like, yeah, you know what, I feel like this is harmful to me. And yes, I have a back history of, many people doing this. And so it probably is a sore spot for me. But just because it's a sore spot doesn't mean that I should just ignore it, right? Doesn't mean that I should just shut up and just let people poke that sore spot, because it's inappropriate, because that would be a dick move. Imagine if you were like, oh, hey, I've got a bruised arm, and someone was like, oh, right here, and they kept poking it. That bruise is never going to turn into a healed, arm. It's always going to be bruised. And that is what is happening with our fatphobic family, is that bruise cannot heal because they keep poking at it. We say, don't, and they say, you're so sensitive, and poke again. I'm going to give you more tactics for that stuff. Okay, so someone says, next question is, hi Vinny, thanks for your blah 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 blah. Thank you. Given the festive season and then the dreaded New Year resolutions that usually include weight loss and or fitness goals, how can I deal with friends who are doing these so-called 8-week fitness challenges? Ugh. A friend of mine is doing one, and all she posts now is before and after photos on social media and brags about her I'm not going to say what that is, her weight loss, let alone all the diet talk of things she won't eat now, or constantly mentioning her dietitian says she can eat certain foods only once in a while. That sounds like a shitty dietitian. I find it depressing and hurtful that she is obsessed now with weight loss. What would you suggest I do to shield myself against this, or have any comebacks when she's talking about food, dieting, and losing weight? Woo, Nelly, that sounds really difficult. You know what? The first thing I would be doing is muting my friend. Do not be afraid of that mute button. And so on Instagram, so on social media, so you do not have to see those before and after posts. Because that stuff is difficult, right? And as well, hearing like, oh, I can eat this and I can't eat that. You're going to suck that stuff up. And the next time you pick up the thing that you know that she said that you're not meant to eat, you're going to be like, oh, I'm bad. And the next time you're eating the thing that you're meant to eat lots of, then you're going to be like, I'm feeling a little bit better. Probably. That's how my brain works, when I'm more vulnerable to that type of stuff. So protect yourself by not seeing it. Mute that friend. Honestly, my Facebook page, I wonder, my Facebook friends, say if I have 500 friends, I've probably muted like 350 of them. I'm like, really? I want to keep them as friends because sometimes you want to just look at them up, right? And be like, let's see what this person's up to now. But you don't want to see their daily thoughts, because their daily thoughts are, oh, I'm so naughty for smelling a slice of cake, So, they're not dead to you, but you don't want to be influenced by that stuff. So mute them. Also get some more fat positive anti-diet stuff on your social media instead. So you're helping your brain supporting that. And then you're going to set a boundary with her. Okay? Because this stuff is harmful to you. You can see it's making you feel, you say, depressed, and you find it depressing and hurtful. That's big stuff, right? So you might want to set a boundary with her. You don't have to. You don't have to be friends with her. If you realize that actually this is all that her personality is, actually you don't really like her that much, you can end the friendship. Why not? But if you want to be friends with her, you can do some of the things I'm going to be talking about in a little bit. So I'm going to give you some words to say, all right? Okay, so someone else has asked, how do I still love my family stuck in diet culture when they're hurting me with their comments? Yeah, it's hard. And this is related to the previous question of the way that I feel about it. So that person who has the friend who's all like, I'm doing this challenge. I feel like, if you're British, you'll understand this reference. I feel like Mystic Meg. And I can see into the future. I can see into the future to March, April, May, February, right? Next year. Friend has had enough of the diet because it is absolutely soul destroying. Her body has rebelled against her. She's no longer losing the weight that she did at the beginning. She's desperate to eat the foods that she's been told that she's not allowed to eat. It's just not working anymore for her. She's going to quietly stop doing the things in the diet. She's going to, have all of those posts on her social media being like, look how much weight I've lost. Look how good looking I am. And she's going to be looking at those posts and feeling ashamed that she's not as thin as she was then at the lowest weight. She is going to be maybe having a more disordered relationship with food. She might even have now an eating disorder. She might have spent money on new clothes that no longer fit and she's feeling deeply ashamed. She might not have things that feel comfortable to her when she goes out. She's really struggling and feeling embarrassed because just a couple of months ago, or however long it takes, she was really like gloating about how good she felt and looked and all that type of stuff. And now she feels like an absolute abject failure. So for me, what I think about those people who are doing that is I feel real compassion for them because it's like they're reaching for this thing, the holy grail of thinness and what thinness means. And they've got all this hope in that they're working really hard to become this thin person who is worthy and loved and desired and healthy and all of those things that they don't feel currently. And they were doing it and they could then they didn't do it, and nothing wrong with them, nothing due to them, but they will blame themselves. So I kind of feel like it's harmful to witness them in this stage of, look at me and how thin I'm getting. That's harmful to witness if you are in your journey of unlearning that stuff. And that can be very triggering. What I see is the after. So, the before and after. I see the after. And I see the shame that this person is very, very likely going to be feeling. So, how do I still love my family stuck in diet culture when they're hurting me with their comments? What you will do is you will work to set boundaries so that you are safe around these people while they're doing this, or remove them from your life. You can do that too. But more likely, you're going to work to feel safe and try to, if you can, see them as the after of what is ahead for them, most likely. 97% chance that that's going to happen for them. And setting those boundaries, I'm going to give you some more things to say. Someone else says, how to resist not telling them to fuck off. I mean, you can. you just do what you want. You can. And sometimes telling them to fuck off might be the most appropriate thing, maybe, for you at that time. I'll give you an example of what I mean with that. I mean, it might not be the most effective communication if you just like walk in and, Aunt Sally's like, so nice to see you. And you're like, fuck off, Aunt Sally. And Aunt Sally's like, what? Didn't say anything. But, if Aunt Sally has spent the last, 30 years saying, hey, you're a piece of shit, eventually you might say, fuck off. Someone else says, can you remind everyone that fat people have eating disorders too? Yeah, that's the thing, is that we really don't think that fat people could have a restrictive eating disorder, which is, guess what? Every eating disorder. And people presume that if fat people have an eating disorder, it's binge eating disorder or bulimia, but normally just binge eating disorder because them fatties be greedy. That's sarcasm, by the way. Yeah. Patty shared another comment, which was, I've always heard, boy, Patty is a big eater. Heard it all my life. It's just, why would we say this to people? Just this one word. I was around a child, and there was an ice cream truck. So this happened kind of fairly recently. And one of the parents said, "Who wants ice cream?" And the two children who were young said, "Yeah." The dad pointed to the little girl who was, I don't know, maybe 3, pointed to her tummy and said, "You don't need any more of that. You've already got a big tummy." And I felt like I was watching in real time, like the potential future, again, Mystic Meg, crystal ball, of that kind of like in 20, 30 years time, that child being in therapy or, you know, just talking with her friends being like, "I remember the first time my dad told me that I was too fat, and it was a wonderful summer's day and we were having ice cream and he poked my belly and said, 'You've had enough of that.'" That was my first memory. I was 3 years old. And that absolutely changed in the course of that child's life. Ugh. It was so heartbreaking. Ugh. Anyway. So, yeah, just, you know, making you really depressed. Let me tell you some other really awful stories. You know, one time I saw someone kick a puppy. No, that's never happened. So, ways I can make you feel more depressed while listening to the podcast. All right, so word track ideas. All right. So let me give you some things to say, and I'll talk more about boundaries and what the anatomy of boundaries and stuff. Okay, so the best thing to do is to either write down a couple of these or memorize one of them or something as your go-to, because in the moment you're in your moment, you're in fight or flight, right? So Aunt Sally is being like, "Oh, look how fat you are," and your heart starts beating faster, your breathing has become shallower, and your body is like, "Okay, we're gonna fight this bitch." And then the more kind of, let's talk about it, rational, being able to access the way that you want to communicate is probably less available to us. So if in that moment you have a couple of words and you can just say, "Oh, Aunt Sally, give me a second," get out your phone, look at your notes and be like, blah, 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 whatever it is that you want to say, or have that memorized. And it could even be that you're just going to say, "Oh, no, thank you. Don't talk about bodies." Whatever feels good to you, right? And these are suggestions, and they might not feel like your words, and so you can make them into the way that you speak. Now, we spoke about, you know, telling Aunt Sally to fuck off. Another episode, I spoke about boundaries and telling people how you feel. And if you think about a set of stairs, right? And our boundaries on the first step would be something gentle, right? Someone does something, and it's not something that's really egregious, right? It's not something like they just hit you in the face. It's something, you know, that you have decided warrants a gentler response. So that's the first step, right? So step 1, you might decide to give a gentle response. Now, if we look at step 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you look at step 3 and what step 3 looks like. If someone does something, and you don't have to necessarily go straight to step 1, you can decide it's a step 3 response. You could decide it's a step 5 response. So, you know, you might just go straight to the fuck off, depending on the history of that person, depending on the situation, depending on your safety. You might have to physically protect yourself. And so that might be another step 2. And so say if someone came and said, here's my gun, I'm going to shoot you, you might find that it's not appropriate to say, I'm having some feelings about that, and I prefer it if you didn't. You might go straight to literally running away or whatever it is you decide to do, right? Save your life, hit them in the face, whatever, right? Obviously, it's not very often that that's going to happen. But however you choose to respond on this like set of steps, on the scale of steps is up to you. And you might have to move up on the steps even if it feels inappropriate. And that's what a lot of people don't do, is they'll do a step one response, and they'll stay at step one, even though their boundary at step one or request at step one was not heard. If it's not heard, it would be probably a wise idea to restate the step one or move to step two. So what are we talking about with the steps? Okay, so the first step is probably a gentle comment. So someone says something, oh, looks like you've gained some weight. Oh, you're going to eat everything on that plate? Something like that, right? You might decide a gentle comment could be that you're going to ignore their comment and change the subject, right? So you're not engaging in it, but you're not saying anything. So that might be the gentlest way. You might say, I love you. It's so good to see you. Let's focus on joyful things today. You might say, I've realized that talking about food or bodies doesn't feel good to me. Can we talk about things that make us happy? Have you watched any good shows or movies recently? Right? So even within that, you can see how it's kind of heightened from ignoring to, you know, maybe being a little bit more assertive, but you're not telling them, if you do this and I'm going to do that. It's a very kind of gentle thing. And so you can come up with one of those that feel good, or use one of those that I've given as an example. Okay, so let's pretend that's step one. Step two might be a firmer, still pretty gentle, plus a request. So you're making a request. So first you're maybe just saying a statement like, oh, that doesn't sound good, or let's not do that, or changing the subject, whatever. But here we're going to be requesting. So you could say, let's not talk about food or bodies. Change the subject. These Brussels sprouts are delicious. Who would ever say Brussels sprouts are delicious? Although, you know what? I did try Brussels sprouts where they were like deep fried with parmesan and lemon, and there was bacon. I didn't try the bacon at the time because I was vegetarian, but I bet the bacon tasted good too. Anyway, so affirmer and request. No body talk, please. Thank you. Another one could be, when you talk about my body, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Can you stop, please? So you see how they're a little bit more assertive. Okay, so imagine if they'll just ignore that. You might decide that you're going to make a request with a boundary. Okay, so none of those that we've said before have a boundary attached. And so a boundary is going to be saying, this is what's going to happen, like a consequence of your behavior. You might decide, I'm going to go straight to boundary. I'm not going to do the soft stuff. So request with boundary. If you keep talking about food choices or my body, I will take my dinner and eat in the other room. Or, I won't be able to come to our next gathering if we continue focusing on dieting and body talk. Or, when you make those sorts of comments, it really hurts me. So the next time you do it, I will have to leave. Okay, so you're telling them what your behavior is going to be, right? I will do this if you do that. You're making a request from them. Can you stop doing that? And then you're telling them what your behavior will be if they don't meet that request. Okay? So they can choose what they want to do. They could say, I don't care. That's fine. Then you will then take the action that you need to take. So if you want to amp it up a level and you want a firmer, like the firmest response, you can say something like, absolutely not. I will not tolerate being shamed for my body or food choices. You could just say, stop. You could say, oh no, the food police have arrived. Please ask them to leave immediately. So the feminist response, none of those had any kind of boundaries with them. So you might want to add a boundary in there too. But any of those ways that you decide to respond is absolutely fine. So let's pretend, your family and everyone is like, oh my God, you're so sensitive. And so if someone was saying to me, oh, you're so sensitive, what I might say is, listen, I have had a history of an eating disorder and a really terrible relationship with my body. So you may feel like you're just joking, or you may feel like, I'm taking it the wrong way, but this is how it lands for me. And so in order to make me feel a little bit more comfortable, I'm not able to be around those types of comments in order to help me with my healing. Now, that's a very kind of generous response in regards to like sharing stuff about you. You don't have to. You can just say, that's my boundary. They say, you're so sensitive. Okay, well, that's my boundary. Why are you being like that? Why are you saying I'm so mean? I'm not saying that you're mean. I'm just saying that that's what feels good for me. That's what is acceptable for me. Right? We don't need to go into debates with people saying I'm not sensitive and okay, fine, sorry, or anything like that, and trying to convince them what you need is what you need. What you need is what you need, right? And if you need to be in an environment that's free from bigotry, pretty simple request, then that's you, right? So they can decide what to do with that information. You've given them some information. Here is the critical part. This is where almost everyone trips up. They say, can you stop doing this thing? The family says, you're so sensitive. With that piece of information, we know how they're going to react if we enact a boundary. And by the way, can you please stop doing that thing? We're not stating really a boundary. We've not told them what's going to happen. So, can you stop talking about my body? Oh, you're so sensitive. Yeah, I'm sensitive. Absolutely. Yeah. But can you stop doing that? Oh, and then see what they say. Next time they say it, you would say, if you talk about my body again, I will have to leave. Oh, you're so sensitive. Okay, yeah. But I will have to leave if we keep talking about bodies and diets. And then this is a really important bit. Next time they do it, follow through on your boundary. Okay? That is the most critical and difficult thing. That's putting the electric fence up. Right? If people are used to just going into that field, doing the same thing, talking about diets and bodies in front of you, you're going to have to help them understand what's appropriate for you. Again, they can continue doing whatever they want, but to have access to you, they need to refrain from behaving in ways that hurt you. Now, saying that, there are many times where we cannot leave, we cannot go to the other room, we cannot enforce a boundary or even say, here's my boundary, because we're in unsafe situations. There are, say you're living with your mum and your mum says all this shit, but she is financially supporting you and you know that she has a hairpin trigger and if you said anything to her that she will throw you out of the house and then you could end up being with nowhere to live, right? That might be your situation. And so it would not be probably the wisest to say, hey, listen, mum, if you do that, then I'm going to do this, because then mum might say, well, get the fuck out of my house. However, if you're just nervous because you don't know how someone's going to react, or you're nervous because you know someone's going to say you're sensitive or you're unreasonable or whatever it is, I would try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and give them the benefit of the doubt that if you clearly communicate, they'll get it, and that they might have to be taken to you walking away or whatever it is that you're going to do for them to then get it. But give them that grace to be closer to you. Because sometimes we'll say, oh, they won't listen. They won't listen. And that is not giving them the opportunity to be close to you as someone that they love. Because you're saying they are absolutely incapable of being an efficient communicator or a better communicator, or incapable of putting aside their beliefs in order to make me feel more loved and accepted and comfortable. And if a lot of times, if people in our life knew how distressed that this stuff makes us, they would cut it out. Not all the time, but if they knew that it was making you dread spending time with them, be anxious, led to you to being deeper into your eating disorder, or you know, hating yourself as you're falling asleep at night, thinking, I wish I was thinner. You know, that would be really impactful for them. Not everyone, but if we can try and give people the benefit of the doubt that if we clearly communicate, this isn't acceptable, they're going to react how they want, and go through the process of actually implementing the consequence of our boundary, you never know what could happen. And sometimes that's what it takes for them to get it, because they might have probably known you for decades. And knowing you for decades, they've learned what is acceptable. For decades, they've been walking into that field and pulling Dominic's tail. And if you walk by and say, oh, Dominic doesn't like that, they probably won't hear that. They might not even hear it if you say, Dominic doesn't like it when you have his pull tail, can you stop? They might not even hear that. And they might only be able to hear it if you put up that fence. And you say, listen, I told you, you can't come and pull Dominic's tail anymore. He doesn't like it and he's a happy little Christmas donkey, so leave him alone. All right, so that's a big thing. There's this post that was created last year, and it's around the internet again this year, and I really like the formula that they've created. By the way, all of these word tracks that I'm saying, I'm going to make it into a Instagram post so that you can go and refer to it. So that's going to be out the same time, the same week that this podcast is out, by the way. So go to my Instagram to see if that post is there and if there's anything there that you can pull from. But anyway, your body is good. Your _body _is _good. Made a post called How to Survive the Holidays with Fatphobic Friends and Family by Amanda Martinez Beck and J. Nicole Morgan, co-hosts of the Fat and Faithful podcast. So they have a nice spice ice method. I don't know if they created it, but it's nice. It's nice. It's spicy. It's icy. I googled that, but all that came up was a rapper. Nice spice or nice ice, spicy ice. Anyway, I was like, no, I want to know about boundaries. Anyway, okay, so this is their post. All of the links that I've been talking about, anything that I'm linking is in the show notes for this episode. It's fiercefatty.com /182. God, I forgot what my fucking website was. fiercefatty.com/182, but you can also find them in the, if you're listening on an app. Anyway, okay, so when someone says, you look great, have you lost weight? The nice response, no, I choose to focus on other things than weight. Good to see you though. The spice, nope, still fat. There are so many more interesting things to talk about than weight. The ice response, hi, please do not comment on my body. Thin does not equal happy or better. So this is actually, I've just realized, this is kind of like the similar analogy of the stairs thing, of the like the stage 1 and stage 2, stage 3. But there's no kind of consequency boundary thing. So if you want the consequency boundary thing, you might decide to add that on here. Okay. When someone comments on something you put on your plate, nice. I didn't drive all this way to spend today eating salad. Spice. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think my food choices were any of your business? Because they're not. Ice. Stare. Rude. Continue loading plate. That's a good one. I think that one, rude, is a good one. Obviously, I don't know how they're saying it. It's in capitals. That's what I hear. I hear it rude. Or it could be rude. Or rude. Whatever you want to say it. That could be really funny, because if you're just like, someone's saying, oh, have you heard about the immigrants? And you can just be like, rude. When someone makes a joke about the holidays making us fat, you could say, nice. Oh, stop it. One day of feasting will not make anyone fatter than they already are. The spice response, and nothing wrong with being fat. Ice. Why is fatness a punchline for you? Do you think my body size is funny or to be mocked? Next, when food is moralized. The nice. Oh, stop. Food is morally neutral, and today is about feasting. Let it go. Spice. Bad for you? Is it crawling with maggots? Because that's the only way I see pie being bad. That's not the only way I see pie being bad. The only other way I see pie being bad if it's a fucking pumpkin pie. That shit needs to go in the bin. Pumpkin pie? Who wants to eat a fucking like a mashed potato pie mixed with cinnamon spice? With cream? Well, actually, mashed potato with cream, that sounds good. In a pie, that sounds good. But no, pumpkin pie, that shit is so gross. Bad for you? Yes. If it's a pumpkin pie, it's bad for your soul. Ice. Stop moralizing food. It is harmful to talk and think about food this way, and I will not let you talk this way today around me and my children. Yes. Whether you choose nice, spice, or ice, don't be afraid to voice your boundaries and push back against diet culture and fat phobia during the holiday season. Love, Amanda and Nicole. That's great. That's great. So again, these are not necessarily boundaries, because it's not saying, well, no, they're saying, one of them is saying, oh, stop it. Oh, stop. Yeah, so there's a couple of stops, but some of them are also just comments. And comments, not saying that that's not good, but as in it's a different thing. So if in the past you've just been saying, what's wrong with being fat, which is a great thing to say, but it's kind of like opening a conversation where you may not be in that place to have a conversation, and also they could be hearing, that's okay, because I can say about this stuff, because then I can debate with so-and-so, you. And you're thinking in your mind, stop fucking talking about that. But they might not have heard stop talking about that, because they have heard you say, what's wrong with being fat? Which is opening a conversation. Which is, again, if you want to open a conversation, great, perfect. If you want to shut that shit down, being really clear and saying, I don't want that around me, will shut it down. And it might be that you do the other methods first before you get in with the spicier or the icier things, right? Okay, so there's another concept called hard and soft boundaries. So I just want to share those with you, that concept with you. There's a link to this. It's someone's website, kcresolve.com. They say it's essential to develop and maintain healthy boundaries. Think of a boundary like this. A boundary is something that allows you to keep what you want close to you and what you don't want away from you. This can be people, objects, concepts, whatever you want. The main idea is that my main idea is that a boundary is something you maintain to keep yourself safe and comfortable. There are multiple types of boundaries, with the main types being hard and soft. So what's the difference? A hard boundary is something that is fixed, something that doesn't let things in or out. In other words, a hard boundary is always enforced. A good example of a hard boundary is not to drink and drive. No matter the circumstances, you don't cross the boundary of driving under the influence because it risks your safety as well as the safety of others. A soft boundary is something that is determined by situations or by other people. Unlike a hard boundary, a soft boundary isn't always enforced. Using the car example again, a soft boundary could be not allowing anyone to drive your car. However, in the event of you being intoxicated, you allow your friend to drive your car for you. In this circumstance, you cross your boundary of not letting others drive your car to avoid driving under the influence. Here's another way of thinking about hard and soft boundaries. Hard boundaries are black and white, whereas soft boundaries are more grey. Although I use the example of drinking and driving, your boundaries are whatever you make them. As mentioned before, boundaries can relate to people, objects, and even concepts. So we all have boundaries in our life. You might say, oh, I'm terrible with boundaries, but you're not actually, because imagine if someone knocked on your door and said, hey, can I come live in your spare room and not pay any rent and eat all your food? You'd say, no. Right? Probably, most likely you'd say no. And they were being a dick, right? They were just like, I'm really rich as well. So it's not that I need your help. I'm just being a dickhead. Right? Yeah. And so say if someone, I don't know, came and spat on your shoe or something, you'd be like, hey, what the fuck? Right? Don't do that. So we know how to set boundaries. It's when with people we love, and because when we want to appear to be a good person. That's the thing is, you know what? Sometimes people are going to think that we're bad people. Sometimes people are going to say, you're too sensitive, whatever. Sometimes people are going to be like, well, I don't want to be friends with them if they won't let me talk about how fat people are pieces of shit, you know? So you'd be like, oh, I don't want to be friends with you. So how people react to our boundaries is up to them, right? And so you already have boundaries. You've already set boundaries, and you've probably got hard and soft boundaries in certain situations. And also something that could be a hard boundary in some situations could be a softer boundary in other. Well, that would be that it'd be a softer boundary. But so, for example, with me, in my life with people I know, I don't allow diet talk, as in them being like, oh, I'm going to go on a diet and sugar is bad and shit like that, right? That's like, I cut that out. However, say if someone messaged me and says, I have all these beliefs that, you know, ABC, or I'm struggling and I feel like I can never get a boyfriend because I'm fat. That would be, I'd be like, oh, that's an opportunity to have a conversation. Right. And so I wouldn't be like, don't talk about that stuff in front of me because it makes me feel bad because I know it's like a professional setting almost. Well, professional, the internet, you know, but it's there's an opportunity for education. Whereas with my friends and family, I want them to know what my values are. And so therefore it's a hard boundary that's not something that I will tolerate. Even though it's a hard boundary, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go straight to, you're a piece of shit. I would, depending on the situation, you know, might do like level 1 on the stairs or level 3 or whatever, right? But it would never just fly in my like it could happen once and I just don't say anything, but it would not long-term fly as for a long-term relationship, like at all. Okay, so that's hard and soft boundaries. And finally, I want to share with you signs your boundaries are being violated, so you can see if that's happening to you. So signs that your boundaries are being violated. This is from Psych Central. Number 1, you have a codependent relationship. And so this, when we're talking about codependent, it refers to a specific relationship dynamic where one person puts their own needs to the back burner and the other tends to avoid accountability for their actions. So in this section, they say, often folks believe that unless they sacrifice their boundaries for the needs of others, they won't be liked, loved, or valued. So the belief that you having boundaries means that you're a bad person, and you having boundaries means that you will not be liked, loved, or valued. And that's not the truth. Boundaries are such a fucking gift. They're a huge gift. Would you rather someone in your life say, hey, you know that one thing that you do? It doesn't make me feel good. Would you rather them say that to you and you fix that thing and you might feel like, oh God, I'm a terrible person, and then you get over it? Or would you have that relationship end, never know when it could have been something that a really valuable relationship to you, and if you just knew this one thing, you could fix it or stop it? It's a gift to be able to set boundaries with others. Okay, number 2, you have to set the boundary over and over again. Yeah. So we have to just be really kind of straightforward and like, this is this, and this, they add here, it might feel like conversation deja vu. So we just have to just follow through with what we're doing. And it's okay if they ask questions about like why this is important to us or whatever, but not debating whether our boundary is valid. Like you're just saying, this is what I'm going to do, right? Not what they have to do. Number 3, you have expressed discomfort. So they say here, you've set and explained your boundaries, but they keep breaking them. Now you're also expressing how that makes you feel, and they continue to behave similarly. This is another example of boundary violation. A main sign that someone doesn't respect your boundaries is if they don't stop their actions after you've expressed discomfort. If you've essentially asked for something to stop and someone attempts to persuade you otherwise or continues to engage in activities you're against, those are signs that they don't respect your boundaries. Number 4, you feel off. Like here they're saying you just don't feel good in the relationship. And that might also include how you feel in your body. Number 5, they don't listen to or acknowledge you. A sign that someone doesn't respect your boundaries is interrupting or changing the conversation when you're sharing something important to you. Number 6, they minimize or mock your requests. Sometimes it's difficult to consider other people's intentions when they say things, quote, as a joke, or you're not clear if they're, quote, only teasing. But sometimes humor may be a manipulation tactic to use to cross the line. So signs of a broken boundary may be invalidating or minimizing your needs that led to the boundary. For example, oh, come on, you can't seriously be that bothered by my phone calls at night. You get plenty of sleep. Gaslighting may also be a red flag. This may involve saying things like, you're just being too sensitive, lighten up. Number 7, they pressure you. It's possible that besides ignoring your request, someone may try to change your mind about your boundaries. This can be done in many ways, from ridiculing your logic for the boundary to making you feel guilty for setting the limit. They may also use a silent treatment or ghost you whenever you set the record straight. All of these may be an attempt to continue violating your boundaries and manipulating you into thinking they're right to do so. And then in this article, they give some examples of what to do if people are violating your boundaries. This is like written by counselors, therapists. So yeah, link for that in the show notes. But this is a process. That's something like last time I talked to my therapist, I was talking about a boundary that I'd set with someone and being like, for fuck's sake, I set this boundary 5 years ago. Why am I still having to deal with this? The fallout from me setting this boundary. And the thing is, like, if someone is in your life in the periphery, and they're always going to be in your life in the periphery, but they're not in your life, there's always going to be butts up against those boundaries. Well, my boundary is no contact with someone, and someone in my family. So it's kind of, peripheral. So there's going to be times where I'm going to be in the same place, and how that's like a continual, it's like maintaining that fence of like what to do, what is the best tactic, and how to protect myself. And it's frustrating and hard, but it can be really successful. And I have many relationships in my life now where I have said, oh, we don't do that anymore, or whatever it is, and it can normally just start with the, the nice spice ice with, oh, don't say that, or, I've only once ever had to go to the, I'm going to actually do something if you don't stop doing this thing. And that's the ending the relationship. But that took years to get to. years, right? Of being like, oh, why am I so sensitive? Oh, all this type of stuff. Yeah. So probably what's going to happen is that you say, please stop doing that. And they'll stop doing it. Or if they don't, you say, if you continue doing that, I'm going to do this. They continue. You enforce your boundary. And then they're like, oh shit, they're serious. And then they stop doing that. That's feels like probably the more extreme version of what's going to happen, is you having to enforce your boundary by actually following through on the consequence. But more often than not, all you have to do is say one of those things. Oh, we don't talk about bodies. Oh, I've learnt that this doesn't feel good for me, so can we avoid it? One of those phrases, and it's just going to nip it in the, is it bud or butt? I think North Americans say butt. I think some Canadians and Europeans say bud. For the rest of the world, I don't fucking know. But whatever one you say, it's going to nip it. I think it's the bud. I think it's a bud. I think it's a gardening term where it's you're nipping it in the bud, where, where something's beginning to bloom. You're going to nip it in the bud so it doesn't bloom into something else. It so is the bud. It's not butt, it's bud. I've just decided, without Googling it, that it must be that because it makes sense. But if I'm wrong, tell me. So, by the way, I have a mini e-course called Boundary Boss that I do a terrific job of never telling you that it exists. Because I don't want to make money. Yeah, Boundary Boss. I've decided just when I was recording that I'm going to do it's normally $47 to get the course. It's really good. But I'm going to do an end of year sale where I make it $27. OMG. So will I do that for when the podcast comes out? I'll make a code or something. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll make a code. I'll put the code wherever it is. What should we make the code as? Why is it so hard to think of the fucking code? I can just make it anything up and I'm like, I can't think. Let's just make it, the code is going to be boundary. So when you go to the checkout page, put the code as boundary. If it changes for any reason, because I realize I can't have an 8-letter word or something like that, then I'll let you know. But the link for Boundary Boss, if you want to get it, will be in the show notes. And that talks more about this stuff and other stuff. Boundary Boss. I actually I got an email from someone in the US saying you're violating what is it? Not like intellectual property, but they have a course called Boundary Boss, which I had no clue about. And I think they must have made it after me anyway. And so they're like their Boundary Boss is it must be like a gangbusters, like sells loads course. Mine doesn't. But they're in the US, right? And so they sent a cease and desist. That's what it is. They sent a cease and, because they must have Googled Boundary Boss, and maybe like on page 17 of Google, mine came up, and they were like, "We found one. They better stop using our name." And then I was like, I'm in Canada, so that doesn't count. They're like, "Oh yeah, sorry about that. Disregard it." And then they sent me another email saying cease and desist, and I said, "I'm in Canada." Ciao. Who knows? That was like, I don't know, a year ago anyway. So maybe they've registered Boundary Boss as a Canadian, or in that process of it. So get it while it's there. I'll just have to change it. Change the name of it or something. Boundary Bish or something. No, Boundary Bitch. Boundary. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, take care of yourself while you're doing this stuff. And you know what? You don't have to go spend time with people if you don't wanna. You're allowed to just say, fuck it, and just, I don't know, watch some telly at home or whatever if it feels really shitty for you. Or whatever you decide to do to stay alive in this world. I mean, shit, you know. And if you're like, I'm going to set a boundary, and then you go around and you're just like, I don't want to, and I'm scared, and I'm not going to do it, and you don't do it, you know, give yourself grace. This stuff is hard. Hard. That's what that spells. Hard. It's hard. Especially if you're a people pleaser, right? So give yourself grace. I'll stop rambling. The sun is setting here. What time is it? It's like, oh my god, 3:45. I hate daylight savings. Daylight savings can suck my fat tits. Oh, you know what I'm going to leave you on? There's a oh boundaries song. There's a Christmas song, which is by Reagan Chastain and someone else. Oh boundaries. But there's a boundary song for kids, which is quite good. I'm going to listen to it. Hang on.
Some people like hugs or standing close, teasing or tickling while others don't. High fives, handshakes, kisses, sharing milkshakes.
Things people do and say with others are not okay.
Your feelings are important, no matter your size, so you can set boundaries to clarify. And you can say,
please stop, I don't like that. Really uncomfortable, I need more space. Not around me, take it personally. It's just a boundary, it's just a boundary. Please stop, I don't like that. Feeling uncomfortable and not more space. Not around me, take it personally. It's just a boundary, it's a boundary. That's a boundary.
Well, that's a fucking banger, isn't it? I'll put that in the show notes. Some of these kids' songs are really fucking good. Oh, and then also I'll find that Reagan Chastain one. Oh, boundaries. I can't remember how it goes. Let's see if I can find it. Reagan Chastain. The Holiday Boundary Song. Jeanette DePatty, that's who sings in it.
This is for you, Reagan. Oh, boundaries, you help me deal with family. Oh, boundaries, you help me deal with family. Don't talk about my life or food. Why can't you see it's ever rude? Oh, boundaries, you help me deal with family.
Another banger. Oh, I'm just giving you all the goods today, aren't I? That's from 10 years ago. Every year I remember that song. I'm like, yeah, man, let's fucking listen to the Boundary song. It's very well sung. What was the last thing? Oh yeah, the last thing. Oh yeah. Oh, two more things. Okay. Sorry, I'll stop talking soon. I'm sorry. Two more things. Did you see Les Dog? I'm gonna go find it. It's so funny. What's her last name? Leslie Jones, comedian. Hilarious. I always just remember her Instagram handle is Les Dog. Les Dog. Maybe it's Les Dog, not Let's. Yeah, it is Les Dog. Leslie Jones. Leslie Jones is hire Leslie Jones to come to your next family dinner to get people to stop talking about shit. I'm going to put that in the show notes so you can see it. I'll put it on my page, man. That's funny as fuck. And also there's this, I'm going to find that. I'm going to see if I can find it. I don't know if I can find it. Anyway, I'll find the Leslie Jones things, but this other thing, I don't know who it's by. There's this person who talks about setting boundaries with family members, but doing it like she's talking to preschoolers. And so she'll say all of these like phrases that are like, eyes on me, cuddle bees. Now what do we do when someone says that they don't like that? Look at their face. Does their face look frowny sad? Yes, well that means that they don't like it when you say, and so it's really funny. They talk about like like Aunt Linda, this is if their face is frowny sad, that means keep your hands to yourself, Aunt Linda. It's really funny. So that could be another method for you to try with your family, friends who are saying shit. Oh, look at me, Applebee's. Or I'm making these phrases up, but she's got like the proper talking to children phrases down. Like, we keep our hands to ourselves. We keep our comments to ourselves. Yeah. Anyway, go check out this Leslie Jones thing. I found it. Yeah, about Thanksgiving. It is. I've watched it probably like 7 times. In the show notes, there's going to be like 75,000 links in the show notes. Leslie Jones funny video. Okay, well, thanks for hanging out. I hope you had a nice holiday time. Nice 2023. I hope you're alive. If you are, congrats. If you're listening to this beyond the grave, oh, hey! What's it like being dead? And watch the fuck out for the New Year's, New You. Don't always remember this is all bullshit. It's going to pass come February, or even by come January 15th. People are going to be off the diet wagon or whatever. So during that time, if that's difficult for you, just go and get some extra juicy fat content in your brain. Surround yourself by fatty goodness, maybe in Facebook groups or whatever. If you go to Ko-fi, you can download my fat resource guide, and in there there'll be TV shows and TEDx talks to watch. So you can do that. You can listen to the 181 other episodes of Fierce Fatty Podcast. You could just go and have a big old fucking nap. That sounds good, doesn't it? Ooh. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, big nap. Yeah, go for a nap. Just go and have a nap right now. Anyway, I'm going to stop fucking talking. I'll be fucking just hour and a half episode. Jesus. Okay. Well, I'll see you in the next episode. And remember to stay fierce, fatty, and I'll see you in a while, alligator. Goodbye.
Perfect.